For Tic-Tac-Toe, I created the game first, and now I'm going to go through the code and explain what's going on here. I chose to do this because it's a lot faster than actually writing the code on screen and wasting a lot of your time. So to get started, we have our class, Tic-Tac-Toe. We have our main method here. And we have our scanner, which we will be using to take in input from the user. The first thing we do is we create a 2D array of type string. Now the size here is 3 by 3. Now that's a 3 by 3 grid for Tic-Tac-Toe. We have our counter here, and we populate the array with numbers 0 through 8 using the counter and this nested for loop. Now what this is being used is to show the user which input to put in to show where to place their mark. So next step is creating a couple flags. Now we used a Boolean flag called finish to see if the game has been completed or not, and we have a flag called xTurn allowing us to understand whose turn it is. If it's X's turn, then it's true, otherwise it's false, meaning it's O's turn. First thing we do is we print the grid, all the contents. So one thing, as we did before, is print the rows in a single row and then print columns separately. And now we start up the game loop, continuing on while we haven't finished. So we have the not negation symbol here while we're not finished. What we want to do is we want to take in input from the user, but we now have to do some kind of error checking. We have to check that the input is between 0 and 8, and also that place has not been played before. To do this, we first prompt the user to print their location. It says either X print your location or O print or enter location. We take in the value from the keyboard, and now we calculate the rows and columns, whatever that translates to. We do our check here, saying that the user input is less than 9 and greater than -1, so between 0 and 8 inclusively. And the translated rows and columns have not been played before. If they had been played before, they would be populated with a number between 0 and 8. Otherwise, they're populated with an X and O. So if they're not X and O, then we know that they haven't been played before. So if that's all true, we say if it's the X's turn, then you update whatever's in that index in the array, in the grid array, to an X. Otherwise, it's an O's turn, then we just set grid row column to O. And we say that we're done taking in input from the user. If the user had not printed the correct input, then this loop would have gone again, prompting the user for input again, and then doing the check again, repeatedly until user puts in some valid input. So once we have valid input, we print our grid again, so the user can see where the new input is and how the new game board looks like. And now we do the check. Now this is big, long code. This is what took up most of the time when I was writing it. But essentially what we're doing is we first check the first row here. Has that been the winning condition? If it is, then we say whomever won, and we say we are done. Finished is true. Now we're checking the second row, and then same thing. We print out who's won and set finish to true. The third row, then we do the printing and finishing. After we're done with all 3 rows, we check the 3 columns. So we check the first column, we check the second column, check the third column, and then lastly we check the diagonals. So we check the diagonal from top left to bottom right, and then top right to bottom left. And if somebody wins, we print out the winning condition, and we say that we are done. And then if the user hasn't won yet, we change the turn. So X equals not X, meaning if X was true, now it equals false. So that means it's O's turn. If X was false, if X turn was false, meaning it was O's turn, well, not X turn would have been true, meaning it's X's turn. So that's just basic logic. Now to show this in action, let's compile this, run this. So here we have our board being printed. We start off with X's turn first. So let's say we want to print it in location 0. And now we see that the 0 here right here, has been turned to an X. And now it's O's turn. Put in a location, let's say 7. And we see the 7 that was here has been turned into an O. So let's try something that's been done before. Let's say we want to play at O again. Sorry, at 0 again. It just asks for input. Again, normally you would have a nicer message saying the location has already been played, try again. But we don't have an error message being printed. We're just doing checking. You can do similarly to see if X had been played. So we play at 7 again. And once again, it fails. If we put in a value below 0, -1, once again, it repeats itself. If we put in a value above 8, it repeats itself. So now we know that we are getting valid input as long as it's not a string or something else, as long as it's integer values that we're putting in. So let's continue on playing. So let's say 3. We update the game board. So we have X is here where the 3 was, and then we have our O still here. Now it's O's turn. Let's go block them here. 6. X's turn again. Let's put it in 2. Our O's turn again. Put it at a 4. And we can finish off the game while X is winning. And here we have our tic-tac-toe. Now, one thing that you're probably seeing is missing is a draw condition, which happens quite often in tic-tac-toe. And that would be a simple update to the code. The way we could do this is we can have a new variable called turn counter. Start it off at 0. Whenever we do a turn, we do turn counter plus plus, so we've incremented by 1. We say after 9 turns have been played, so after 9 turns have been played, it's a draw. So let's try coming up with a draw condition here. Hopefully it shouldn't be hard. Okay, start off here. Okay, I'm trying to not win here. Let's see, X here, put it at 2. This at a 6. X would be, let's say, at 3. And here we go. We have a draw condition in our code. So here we have X's and O's, tic-tac-toe in our game. And from now on, I will be doing much more like this, where I create the code beforehand and then just go over it during the tutorial. This is much faster than actually me writing the code live. I may do a live stream of this occasionally. So in the next tutorial, we will actually go over documentation. We have a lot of code here, and if someone else is looking at it who hasn't seen the explanation for it, they might not understand what's going on there completely, especially this long if-else-if part. So we'll actually put in some documentation which will explain what's going on in the code. So that's what we'll be doing next time. So for now, this has been Zan from Zan's Gaming and Java Games Programming. Thank you for watching.